Greek word for terrible, dino, and lizard, saurus. Put them together, terrible lizard. Skrakakadis in Afrikaans. So before 1841, you won't find the word dinosaur in any books or anything. But do we find dinosaurs described in ancient books? Well, firstly, we find it in the Bible, Job chapter 40, where God is telling Job about his greatness. And he says to Job, look at Behemoth. And he describes Behemoth to Job, to tell Job about his greatness. And he says he eats grass as an ox. He moves his tail like a cedar. His bones are like bars of iron. He's the chief of the ways of God, the largest animal of God's creation. Well, a tail like a cedar. That's a cedar tree. We love to do this with kids. When I do this with youngsters, we pin the tail on Behemoth. We start with a tail like a cedar tree, a massive big tail. And some of your Bibles in the notes might say that Behemoth was an elephant. So we put it on an elephant and ask the kids, does that mean, no, it's an elephant's got a little puny, squiggly little tail. Some other Bibles might say it was a hippo. Does that work? And by this time, the kids' hands are all going up. They know exactly what animal God is describing back there in Job chapter 40. A dinosaur. A tail like a cedar tree. So there's a brachiosaur. That's a tail more like a cedar tree. 35 meters long. Isn't that absolutely astounding? These large, full-grown adult fossils that we find today. In Cambodia, the Angkor Wat temple in Cambodia, discovered in the jungles there. It was built about 800 years ago in the 13th century, and it's got all these carvings on the outside, carvings of creatures that look something like elephant, like a monkey, like a deer. This is maybe a horse. What is that? What is that creature that's carved there? You know, is there dinosaurs? What does it look like? What type of dinosaur? Stegosaurus. These great big scales on the back like that. So the Angkor Wat temple. So, you know, for him to have carved all of those creatures means that whoever built that temple must have seen those animals that still exist today. So why would he carve something that he had never seen, like a stegosaur? Well, Angkor must have seen a stegosaur in order to carve it. There's a modern depiction of what we believe a stegosaur looked like. These great big scales on the back and the spikes on the tail. There's a bishop, Christian bishop, buried in the UK, in a cathedral, Carlisle Cathedral, and around his grave are these brass insets, and they've got engravings in those insets, and engravings that look clearly like a bat, like fish, like dogs, like birds, clearly identifiable. And then we find these creatures engraved there. Look which way the legs are pointing. So it's clearly which side is the head and which side is the tail. They've got their necks intertwined like giraffes do. And there on the tails, these spikes on the tails, looking very much like what we understand a Shunnosaurus to look like. There's a modern depiction of a Shunnosaurus, long neck, head at the end there, and those spikes on the tail. Again, indicating that whoever buried him had some recollection of having lived with incredible creatures like these. And then all over the world, different cultures have got legends about these amazing creatures, huge, massive creatures that lived in the past. Aboriginal art depicts creatures like this. Look very, very much like what we know as a plesiosaur today, an extinct marine reptile. And then we find dragon stories all over the world. The flag of Wales in China, their calendars, 12 different animals, one for each month of the year. Dog, rabbit, pig, a whole bunch of them, rat and so on. They've got, all of which are animals that still exist today. They've got a dragon month, a dragon year. Why would they have a dragon if dragons never existed? So, and dragon legends. I remember my father telling me stories about St. George, the dragon slayer, Beowulf, also famous in Northern Europe for having killed these dragons that were harming men, seen as harmful to men. And so could it be that these dragons of legend, which in their depictions so closely resemble the dinosaurs of history, dragon stories all over the world, South America, North America, you will find people with these dragon legends. They cannot all be made up. They must go back to real creatures that people saw in the past. So we've got the Creation magazine as well. Maybe we could pass some around to some of the adults that may want to subscribe. Outstanding magazine, comes out 4 editions a year, full color, no advertising, that has more of this type of information that I've shared with you tonight. You'll probably forget 90% of what I've said to you tonight when you leave here. And so we provide these resources so people can equip themselves. A challenge comes, there we go, advertising for me. There's a kiddies section in the middle of every one. They're not written in highly technical language, easy to understand. There's an interview with a creation scientist in every edition. And if you want to subscribe, okay, so anybody who wants to subscribe, we'll have some clipboards at the back there, and you can subscribe. And if you subscribe tonight, put in your details, tick whether you want 1 year or 3 years. 1 year, 160 Rand, 3 years, 420 Rand. Tear off the little label, the little coupon, and take it to the cash table afterwards, and you will get a free prize, a free gift. For a 1 year subscription, you'll get 160 Rand, you'll get a free back issue that you can take with you tonight. And for a 3 year subscription, you can take with you a free back issue and a twin DVD, 2 DVDs. The value of that alone is over 200 Rand, or about 200 Rand, that you'll get as a gift for a 3 year subscription. And what's more, you'll get even more than that, an extra bonus DVD. So for a 1 year or a 3 year subscription, you'll get this DVD as well. This is Dr. John Sanford I spoke to you about earlier, well-known geneticist. Just about anybody in the genetic world knows that name. Very, very well-known. He's a Bible-believing creationist. And the Lord has really used this magazine in people's lives. Let me keep moving so we can take some time for questions. I'll share this one with you. We've got this message from a lady. The magazine Creation is the most educational and inspiring magazine I've ever had the pleasure to read. I'm 99 years old. I preach to people with your uplifting magazine. Thank you. You know what the coolest thing was about that message? It came to us by email. Some others there, we're continually getting these sorts of feedback from people of how God has used that magazine in their lives. Dinosaurs, Untold Secrets of Planet Earth, Dire Dragons, beautifully illustrated book. Archaeoraptor, a few years ago, National Geographic did a 10-page spread on Archaeoraptor. This was meant to be a transitional form, something between a reptile and a bird. 10-page spread. Well, sometime later, they discovered that, like most things today, Archaeoraptor was made in China. Some enterprising Chinaman had taken a few fossils, put them together, and sold them to a gullible scientist. Now, evolutionists today recognize that that was a fraud, but you see how a worldview can distort the interpretation of something. And by the way, you know, they find fossils like Archaeopteryx, and Archaeopteryx has got teeth, and some scientists, some evolutionists see that proves that it's also transitional somewhat between a dinosaur and a bird. There are birds living today that have teeth, like this grey-lag goose in Europe. Some of our other books, Antwoorde oor die Skepping, ek het vroeër daaroor gesels. Gay Marriage, Dinosaurs by Design, a kiddies book, lots of kiddie dinosaur challenges, excellent book on dinosaurs. Refuting Evolution, another book written by Jonathan Sarfati, quite a thin book. We sometimes ask, why is it such a thin book? And we say, well, you don't need a thick book to refute evolution. Christianity for Skeptics, discounted pack of DVDs, 33% to 50% DVDs, understanding the law of decay, laws of thermodynamics, and how that leads to an understanding that this world is winding down. Evolution calls for things to be getting better and more organized, more and more design, more and more information. It's going in the opposite direction. Dragons or dinosaurs, that's available in a book and a DVD. Migration after the flood. How did animals and people migrate to the different parts of the world after the flood? Dinosaurs in the Bible. The Apostle Peter exhorts us to be ready to give an answer to everybody who asks us the question, the reason for the hope that we have, but to do it with meekness and fear. And so we are to be equipping ourselves to answer these questions, not to win the argument, but to prepare the ground to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with people that do not know Him. And the Bible gives us this amazing framework of understanding the universe and giving answers to these questions. So we can conclude by saying, I may be a fossil, but I'm still rocking at 6,000 years old, not 65 million years old. Everyone, how are we doing for time? 8:24. A little bit of time for questions? Okay?